a new film is set to focus on personal impacts related to struggling farmers in a very harsh drought. It's called Drought. It follows the lives of young farmers Rob and his wife Sophie as they struggle under the relentless pressures of the Australian drought. Now, the short film, shot in Moree in New South Wales, has been made to raise awareness about the mental health and suicide in rural communities. Take a look at this.
It's a part of me. I'm not giving it up just because we're struggling a bit.
A bit? Rob, if this continues, how are we going to live? Huh?
There's a premiere of this film, Drought, on in Sydney in 1 week's time. And I haven't seen this film, but how timely is it? Joining me now is director Nathan Colquhoun and actor Matt Oxley. Thank you, gents, for coming in.
Thanks for having us.
What was the impetus for this? What was the inspiration? I know what's going on at the moment. We know that, but it's one thing to try and help farmers. It's another thing to put a film together. How does the film assist in the support of farmers at the moment?
Well, yeah, I guess the inspiration behind the film was the stories that were coming out of the news and out of those drought-stricken communities. For me as a filmmaker, I really try to make films that capture the audience, not just visually, but also emotionally. So through these stories, I was investigating, and really, it really struck me in how I didn't really know what was going on. The more I researched, the more I found out the severity, not just the drought, the weather, but the emotional stress that it puts on families and communities.
So you actually got in a real situation in the bush and saw people struggling to that end of tether.
Yeah. Yeah, there was one farm that we went to, and the guy had been there for 75 years, and we shot it, this beautiful drone shot at this dam, and it was completely dry. And he said he'd been there for 75 years, never seen it completely dry.
Matt, you, from what I've seen of the shorts, and I had a little bit more to see this afternoon, and we just used a short piece then, but you were able to I guess, represent what it was like, because not only is there a time of destitution and hardship on the land, there's also a great sense of hope if you're part of a local community.
Absolutely.
And you were able to portray both feelings, that terrible seesaw between hope and failure.
Yeah, and that's, I think, was a really pertinent characteristic of the farmers that I picked up on from the research that I did on the characters as well. And not just from online studies, but also from getting to meet the communities down there, is that these are people in hard times that spur themselves on with this constant, continual, relentless sense of hope. Every day in the drought is one day closer to it raining again. It seems to be this mantra. So there are these people with these amazing characters of perseverance in just the toughest of circumstances.
I've lived 6 years in rural Australia, and that was one of the things I noticed. They didn't want a hand. They certainly didn't want a hand. You couldn't give them money, you couldn't send parcels over to them, because they still had hope about something that was likely to get them out of the problems that they were facing.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the wonderful thing about the rural community, is that they're all contributing. It's not every man for himself out there. Your neighbour, even though they're tens and possibly hundreds of kilometres further away from you, that isolation doesn't register in the way that they relate with one another. Yeah.
Nathan, who helped you link up with those that you were able to get insight from?
Well, there were a few people on the crew. One in particular had family who lived out in Moree, and I guess that was crucial for us to meet that family, and the whole community got involved with this film, opened their land to us, their homes to us.
And you had support from Horizons Foundation, also Beef It Up Australia, right?
Exactly, yep. Right. They helped us really get it over the edge, for sure.
Great stuff. I wonder, this is not going to be shown in cinemas, it's a short film, it doesn't work that way, right?
Yeah.
But how easy will it be for viewers to try and find it and see it?
Well, at the moment it's just about to do the festival scene, so we're sending into like prestigious festivals around the world. But after that point, we're hoping to put it up for viewers to see in some streaming sites.
Yeah. Isn't it interesting, Matt, and I just talked to Mick, the Oz trucker.
Yes.
Isn't it interesting, at the times where we face absolute disaster and through natural causes, Australians are funny people. They find a way of getting off the canvas and going out, getting themselves out of their comfort zone to help others, strangers.
That's right, yeah. And it's in whatever way they possibly can as well. And one person who's not necessarily in a situation of great wealth or provision will still do what they can with the limited resources around them to help out. It's that whole thing about I don't want to take something from someone else, but I will pitch in and be part of the bigger picture, the community that's helping.
But there's a sad point to it all. It's about the fact that, truthfully, every week in Australia, in rural Australia, men in particular are taking their lives.
Yep.
They are really under the pump, aren't they?
Yeah, I think, like, under the pressure of the drought, I think we're seeing even more so of this. Where with people that put their livelihood under the obeyance of the weather. So it's like, if it doesn't rain, it just puts more pressure and more pressure on these families.
It's a risky business, isn't it?
Yeah.
A risky business to be in. And I've got to say, from what I've already seen of the short film Drought, every shot is a Rembrandt. You wouldn't have had to travel too far outside of Moree to get a pictorial understanding of what rural Australia looks like at sunset, at sunrise.
Yeah. Oh, there's a funny story about that, because when we arrived there, obviously we wanted to shoot on location. There was no mimicking the environment when you're in it.
Yes.
And that affects me as an actor. It affects Nathan making his decisions about how to direct us.
Yep.
But when we arrived, we got apologies because it had a sprinkling of rain a week earlier.
Okay.
And they said, sorry, it probably looks a little bit more green than you were hoping for. And by green, it's like, oh, there's a couple of leaves, a shoot of grass over there.
Look, we could talk forever, but you're doing a terrific thing, and it's a great part of the rest of us trying to help those in the bush. Matt Oxley and Nathan Colquhoun, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks so much for having us.
Yeah, the movie's called Drought. You've got to try somehow to go to these movie festivals and see it.